Russia in the south that played minor roles in the campaign. Finally, the port of Kirch gives its name to the peninsula that stretches eastwards and is separated by a narrow strait from the Taman Peninsula and the mainland north of the Caucasus. Although the Perekop Isthmus had been fortified in depth with two deep belts of defences, Manstein decided that he had no alternative but to fight a breakthrough battle there. The isthmus could not be outflanked, and the Germans had no amphibious resources for a landing operation. So Manstein reinforced 54th Corps with all the artillery and engineers he could find, and ordered 50th Infantry Division to join the Corps for the final breakthrough. Realizing that the breakthrough battle would almost exhaust 54th Corps, he pulled the German 49th Mountain Corps away from the battle in the steppes so that it could exploit the breakthrough and reach Kirch, from where the High Command wished it to advance into the Caucasus. Manstein hoped to use the motorized Leibstandarte division to take Sevastopol by a surprise thrust. This left only the 30th Corps to maintain the pressure on the retreating Russians. But Manstein managed to persuade General Dumitrescu, the commander of the 3rd Romanian Army, to move across the Dnieper River and join the eastwards pursuit. This added a cavalry corps and a mountain corps, each of 3 brigades, to the eastern push. But Manstein was still taking the conscious risk that the Russians would not stop their withdrawal and counterattack. Manstein would have liked to start the assault at Perekop on the 20th of September, but was forced to wait until the 24th. 11th Army had advanced over 300 miles since it crossed the Soviet border, and supply convoys were struggling to keep up over poor roads. On the Soviet side, the defense of the Crimea was entrusted to 51st Separate Army that had 4 infantry divisions, 4 militia divisions, and a cavalry group of 3 divisions under command, but these were mostly newly raised formations. The army commander, Colonel General Kuznetsov, did not really expect an attack on the Crimea. He deployed 3 of his infantry divisions under 9th Rifle Corps along the northern coast, with the 156th Rifle Division holding the Perekop Isthmus. Most of the militia divisions were dispersed to defend the coasts, and 2 operational groups were kept in the centre of the peninsula to counterattack against any German assault. About 30,000 men defended the north of the peninsula. 40,000 men were along the coasts, and 25,000 were held in the operational groups in the centre. When the attack began, Manstein had 3 divisions in his front line. During the night of the 23rd and 24th of September, the 22nd Division launched diversionary attacks away from the Perekop Isthmus. Supported by all available aircraft and artillery, 54th Corps launched 45th and 73rd Infantry Divisions into the attack at 4:30 on the morning of September the 24th. They were bitterly resisted by the 156th Rifle Division and had to fight for every machine gun post and pillbox. Manstein had expected this and had ordered his troops to bypass Russian strongpoints as much as possible. Using these tactics, 73rd Division managed to advance about 2 miles on the western side of the isthmus. But by the afternoon of the 24th of September, there was no sign of an early breakthrough. The grinding breakthrough battle continued for the next 3 days. Every battalion commander in 156th Rifle Division was killed as they tried to stiffen the defense by their personal example. The deputy commander of 51st Army, General Batov, led an operational group formed from 2 rifle and 1 cavalry divisions that began to move from the central part of the peninsula on the 25th of September to join the battle at Perekop. But the group had to march over 60 miles under constant air attack, delaying its advance. The Luftwaffe's total air superiority also helped the German infantry to deal with the defences at Perekop. Just before dawn on the 26th of September, 73rd Infantry Division began its attack on the Tatar Ditch. After a concentrated artillery barrage, the infantry and assault pioneers slid into the ditch and struggled up the far slope. Gradually a foothold was achieved, and during the following night both divisions worked their way towards Armyansk at the back of the first belt of defences that was 10 miles deep. But Batov's counter-attacking forces drove the Germans out in a charge delivered just before first light. The battle for territory continued back and forth for another couple of days before the German advance finally halted. But it was not the Soviet resistance in the Crimea, however desperate, that prevented a complete breakthrough. Events on the steppe further north forced Manstein to change his plans completely. Despite its immense losses in the first 3 months of the war, the Red Army had managed to find new reserves. 2 armies, the 9th and the 18th, had been reformed and held a defensive line running west of Melitopol northwards to the Dnieper Bend near Zaporozhye. From the 22nd of September, they began to launch minor attacks that were checked without causing 11th Army much concern, although they began to wear down the resistance of the Romanian units sandwiched between the German divisions on this sector of the front. Eventually, these attacks increased in scale until more than 10 infantry divisions, with at least 1 armour brigade, started probing the gaps between German and Romanian formations. On the morning of the 27th of September, the tide began to turn. The 2nd and 4th Romanian mountain brigades began to weaken in the face of attacks led by tanks that their anti-tank weapons could not stop. German units were also coming under pressure. The 22nd Infantry Division between the Sivash and Melitopol had been reduced to the combat strength of a small regiment, and its commander was starting to talk of withdrawal. Wasting no time, Manstein reacted quickly. First, he ordered that there was to be no withdrawal. Second, he checked the forces moving to complete the breakthrough into the Crimea. 49th Mountain Corps and the Liebstandarte SS Adolf Hitler Division were turned back, and Manstein moved his tactical headquarters to the northeast in order to make his presence felt among the wavering Romanian staffs. On the 29th of September, 49th Mountain Corps began a counterattack in support of the 3rd Romanian Army, and the northern arm of the Soviet counterattack was confirmed. The Liebstandarte was about to follow up this attack when a Romanian cavalry brigade gave way in the centre. Manstein was on hand to prevent this and swing the Liebstandarte division to oppose the threatened breakthrough on the 1st of October. Things were looking brighter for the Germans. The battle began to turn in their favour. Besides taking his own measures to check the Soviet advance, Manstein had been urging Army Group South to organise a major counterstroke. The Soviet 9th and 18th Armies were now fully engaged in the battle against 11th Army, leaving their northern flank vulnerable to a blow from General von Keist's 1st Panzer Army. Army Group South quickly seized the opportunity, and 1st Panzer Army began to cross the Dnieper at the Zaporozhye and Dnipropetrovsk bridgeheads on the 1st of October. By the next morning, reports were reaching Manstein that the Russians were beginning to withdraw to the east. By the 3rd of October, 11th Army was able to order its eastern grouping to pursue the disappearing enemy. On the 6th, Melitopol was captured, and 49th Mountain Corps linked up with von Kleist's panzers. By the end of the battle, over 100,000 prisoners had been captured, and the 9th and 18th Armies were ruined. The 11th Army took 27,000 prisoners, 130 guns, and 64 tanks. In Manstein's view, the Russians had missed a great opportunity. Their forces were so superior to 11th Army at the start of the operation that if they had been better led, they could have destroyed the German position south of the Dnieper.